Decades ago, I started growing food in my front and backyard, and I realized that my mission in life is to inspire and empower others to grow their own nutrient-dense, healthy organic food. Because of this, a lot of people have come to me with their gardening questions over the years, and that got me thinking, what if we put together a community that would help budding gardeners blossom? So I finally made the idea a reality with my Urban Farm U member program. Each month, your membership includes 3 live online events, a monthly class, a chit-chat with an expert, and a monthly coaching session, plus access to the experts on our member page and a significant discount on our signature courses. I'm deeply committed to transforming our global food system, and I do this by empowering you to grow your own food. The Urban Farm membership program is a simple way to get going. Please join me in transforming your food system today. To learn more, go to urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444. That's urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444.
You're listening to the Urban Farm Podcast, your partner in the Grow Your Own Food revolution. Whether you've just been introduced to urban farming or you're a lifelong advocate, we're sure you'll leave feeling more informed, equipped, and empowered to dig deeper into the soil of your local food economy. With you every step of the way, here's your host, Greg Peterson.
Today on the Urban Farm Podcast, we have Mary Maranville of Students for Eco Education and Agriculture to talk about her experience with agriculture education for children. Mary was raised on a Holstein dairy farm in the foothills of the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York. In 2008, she founded SEAG, Students for Eco Education and Agriculture, which teaches children about the farm origins of their food and connects them to farmland in their own backyard. After years of teaching thousands of local school children, Mary realized that their parents also knew very little about local agriculture. So she founded Ventura County Farm Day, an annual county-wide agricultural education event, which includes over 20 local farms, tours, activities, and takes place in early November each year. The Farm Day slogan is "Celebrating the hands and lands that feed us." Welcome to the show today, Mary.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here. So I shared a bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks and share more about the path you took to get where you're at now?
I certainly can. Well, you gave me such a wonderful introduction. Yes, I was raised on a Holstein dairy farm in upstate New York.
Nice.
Where it is cold 6 months out of the year and warm 6 months out of the year. And there was a moment of epiphany when I came to Ventura County about those years when I was invited to attend a local field trip at a local farm here. And I was not involved in agricultural education at the time. I was purely there as an observer. And when I saw and listened to the questions of these local school children and the lack of their knowledge, it made me very nostalgic for my days on the farm. And I said to myself, I wish someone came to my school when I was a child and told me what a wonderful job my father was doing and how hard he was working to make sure that the community and the community at large had, you know, he was putting milk and dairy products on people's tables, and I had no idea of the significance of that. So that was what led me to where I am today.
So speak more about that significance. Like, what's the big thought behind that?
Well, it was just inspirational. When you spend your first 18 years on a farm, and I now realize what a privilege that was, living in the country, having land around our home and animals that I get, would get to visit every single day and wander around and just that privilege that I had of growing up on a beautiful farm in upstate New York. And then realizing, today as a woman on the West Coast and having all this agriculture around me, that it is that kids today are disconnected. Back in the 1800s, 1700s, every family was sustainable. Everyone either grew food or had livestock. Mm-hmm. And today we depend on less than 1% of the population to provide us with food. That's an amazing statistic. And because of that, because there's because that's such a small percentage, mm-hmm. we're so disconnected from it. And I really do think we take it for granted. And that's what I'm saying. I think I took it for granted back then. And I wanted to teach local children not to take it for granted. I wanted to teach them to care about their local farmers, to care about the land, to care about the agricultural workforce. We've got harvesters and pickers here in this county that work so hard every single day. And that just, when I was just on this field trip and I saw the kids and their lack of knowledge and their questions, it just raised a big question for me. I think I can do this too, and I think I can, make a difference. Uh-huh. And I'm really proud that I think I have made a difference.
Wow. How long so SEAG is your mm-hmm. nonprofit that you set up. That is Students for Eco Education and Agriculture. How long have you had it set up?
Since 2008. That year was when I went on the field trip, and that was the inspiration. We didn't get our 501c3 status until 2013. So the program, it was a program that I turned into a nonprofit. So since 2008, I've been on this path.
Wow. Do you remember some of the questions that the students were asking back then, or even better yet, what kind of questions do you get now about where our food comes from?
Well, some of the questions that kids have, well, first of all, they don't know what the word agriculture means. They have no idea. They don't even know what that word means. And again, agriculture was the foundation of this country.
Yeah.
Agriculture is the foundation of almost of feeding yourself.
Right.
Feeding is your number one priority. So the fact that they didn't even know what that word means. And then when we would ask them simple questions like, what crops are growing in our own backyard? What crops do mm-hmm. you think are grown right around your home? And we get answers like wheat. Wheat isn't grown in Southern California. We get answers like corn. So they don't even know what crops are growing in their own backyard. And then one step further, not only do they not know the crops they're growing in their area, but they have no concept of how long it takes to grow the crops. So here, one of the number one crops is strawberries and lemons. So when we say to them, how long does it take to grow a strawberry or a lemon takes 9 months. And they'll say, it takes a week. So they have, and then they have no, and when I say I'm generalizing a little bit here, some students are, they were raised on an orchard or they were raised on a farm, so they have a little bit more knowledge, but the average kid has no idea about agriculture, the crops, how long it takes to grow the crops, and the system, the agricultural system or the food system that
backs it up.
And all the, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was obviously in that moment of you seeing this, there was something that sparked inside of you, and that probably points to why you think agricultural education is important.
Well, yes. Okay, so you're asking me such wonderful questions. So one of the things that's very sad is my great-grandfather came from Ireland to upstate New York. He started a Holstein dairy farm. He also raised standard bred horses, which are like trotters. And, he came from Ireland with nothing. He had a little bit of money. He started this farm that was gorgeous and, rock walls and barns and a beautiful home. And it doesn't even exist today. And I think it's because that as generations pass along, the agriculture, as these bigger farms get larger and larger, and those small family farms, the family can't compete, or there's not a need for them to compete, because when we go into the grocery store, it's all there at our fingertips.
Right. And
so my family farm, Michael Casey, my family farm, it's still called Casey Road. The road was named after him, but the farm isn't there. So I would have to say that the point of my inspiration comes from and is dedicated to family farm preservation. I really want to protect farmland.
Yeah. So tell us about SEAG and the programs that you have, and tell us about the organization.
So, Students for Eco-Education and Agriculture, you asked, it was founded in 2008. It was a program. I started it under a local nonprofit as just a program. And my goal was, I was like, if I can teach 500 kids about local agriculture and where those kids come and where their food comes from, if I can teach just 500 kids, I'll be happy a year. Well, so that was in 2008, and then the program slowly gained traction, because what was also very important to me is to offer these programs 100% free of charge, which also included bus transportation. So I know for a fact that we are one of the only educational nonprofits in this area that also covers all bus transportation costs. So when a school signs up to take part in our program, it doesn't put any money in our pocket, and we totally pay for everything.
Wow!
And so news of this program spread very quickly. So we've had many repeat teachers bring their kids on because they see the benefits, they see the significance and the importance of teaching kids about food literacy. So that 500 number, that 500 kids a year slowly increased from 500 to 1,000. And then last year we saw 4,200 kids in 1 year.
Oh, nice. So
yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Let's pretend here. So I'm a parent, and I just signed up my 7-year-old. Do you have?
Yes, 8-year-old. Third grade is about 8, 9. Yep.
Okay, good. So I signed up my 8-year-old to come on a tour, and so this is through my school, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then the whole class comes. So we're on the bus now, and we're on the way out to where?
Okay, so no, actually, the other nice aspect of our program is we first want to give the school children an introduction to agriculture. So we come to you. We come to your. We would come to your classroom. We bring props. We bring photos of agriculture, orchards, row crops, harvesters. We ask the question this is very important to me, and this is, again, something that I started in this county, is to ask them, what is agriculture? What does that word mean? And we get all different kinds of questions or answers. Then we give them the definition. Agriculture is the science of farming. It's cultivating the soil. It's planting and raising crops. And it's harvesting those crops and transporting them to the supermarkets and farmers markets and restaurants where you eat, right, in your home.
All right.
And then we ask the question, who's connected to agriculture? Who is connected to agriculture? And the kids just look at us with, very confusion. And then a few of them raise their hands and they say, my parents work at, my uncle works at a grocery store or something similar. And then we say, well, who here eats?
Yeah.
And they all do exactly what you just did.
Yep.
They all laugh and raise their hand. I eat. we say if you eat, you're connected to agriculture.
Agriculture.
That's
Yeah.
where your food comes from. Comes from agriculture. You might have a garden that supplements your diet in your backyard, or you might have a container plant or something, but the majority of your food comes from agriculture. And so we go into the classroom, we teach them about the local top crops. In this county, the top crops are strawberries, raspberries, lemons, celery, avocados, and then we talk to them about the parts of their plant and their function, and then we talk to them about sustainable ag practices and what they can expect when they step off the bus. And we go through what they're going to see when they're there. And so it gives them an introduction. So when they step off the bus for the field trip, they are already know what they are going to learn, which is really important, because if you just take kids to a place and you haven't really talked to them about what they're going to see, it's kind of like a little bit overwhelming.
Yep.
With this approach, part one and a part two, it just reinforces what agriculture is and helps them to already know what to expect when they're there.
Yeah.
And so then they come to our Farm Lab location, which is at Petty Ranch in Saticoy. Petty Ranch grows lemons, avocados, pomegranates, apples, and figs. And so when they get off the bus, I know. And so when the kids get off the bus, it's usually 2 classrooms. They are reintroduced to, agriculture, and we do a little overview of what they've already learned.
Right.
And then we take them through the journey of a lemon. So we give them the big picture of the journey of their food. And so we talk to them about how long does a blossom last on the tree? How long does it take to grow a lemon? It takes 9 months. What happens in that 9 months? What does the farmer have to do to keep the tree healthy in those 9 months? How do you determine when a fruit is ready to be picked? How hard do the harvesters work to harvest these millions of pounds of lemons in this county?
Yeah.
And it gives them, because again, they have no concept of how much food has to be grown for the population. The population is over 7 billion people today.
Right.
And this county is ranked 10th in agricultural production. And this county feeds not only other states, but we feed Ventura County farmers ship to 54 different countries around the world.
Holy
so we
schmoes.
give them we give them all of this information, which I know is a lot, but they have this total paradigm shift of where their food comes from. And one of the things that someone said to me recently is the whole reason kids get summers off was to work at their farm. That's the reason that they have summers off, and kids don't even know that. So they learn that the school system, the way it was set up in the 1700s, was they were taught math, so they could apply math skills in their farming. They were taught English. They were taught some sciences, but they were not taught anything about agriculture and food literacy, because they were taught that from their parents and their grandparents on the farm. And on the farm. So that is why there's not a national food literacy curriculum or an agricultural curriculum. And that's why programs like ours and others that are teaching kids about where their food comes from is so important and needed.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and it when you said we have summers off because we used to, it was designed that way. It's like there was this, I didn't know that, but it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
We got, and I think our summers are, the schools, of course, have shortened, because I think like the first day of summer, which, or the spring months, I think we got like 4 or 5 months off in the summer. To work on the farm. Basically, as soon as the weather started getting good and it was time to plant crops, that's when kids got out of school. And they didn't go back until after harvest. That part has changed. Obviously, the summers, the time that we have off is shortened up. but they still get summers off only because it was to work on the farm. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is fascinating. Makes perfect sense. So what do you hope the kids will take away from, a day at the farm?
I hope that I'm creating agricultural ambassadors. I told you my number one goal is farmland preservation, family farm preservation. So I'm hoping that we are planting the seeds, pun intended, to create these agricultural ambassadors and stewards of the land, and that they grow up and that they remember this amazing program and this amazing time that they spent on a farm. And they go off to become, voters. And when they, it's actually very interesting because this year in Ventura County, there's a few initiatives on that will be on our ballots November 8th. And it's all about farmland preservation. And so the kids, one day, they will be voters, and they will have a chance to, hopefully they'll be in support of agriculture. So that's another goal for me.
Nice. So where do you see SEAG in 5 years?
Right now, we see kids. Obviously, we see a lot of kids in Ventura County. We see some kids in Los Angeles County, which really obviously need to be connected to agriculture and farmland. I'm hoping to expand and at least be in 3 or 4 counties. Santa Barbara County, I would love to start seeing kids in those counties. So I would like to see us be to reach more kids, at least 10,000 a year.
Nice. So we got you here to talk about SEAG, but you have another really cool event that you founded, and you mentioned it in your bio. And I thought it was curious that you started, looking to parents and realized that they knew little about local agriculture. So I want you to talk about your Ventura County Farm Day and how that came about, because that's something that I think really every city should have. So tell us about that, would you?
Yeah, so Ventura County Farm Day, we are going into our 4th annual this year. And the inspiration behind Farm Day, you said it exactly, is when we were giving field trips to school children, word got out to parents on how fun our field trip was and how educational, and they wanted to be chaperones. So sometimes we would have, 20 to 25 parents that wanted to attend our field trips as chaperones.
Nice.
It got to be, it was nice, and it was also very flattering. And they were just as excited and eager, and their eyes were wide open. And when we would say, okay, what does agriculture mean? How long does it take to grow a lemon? How big is the agricultural industry in our county? And we would say 2 billion. Or what are the top crops? And we would say strawberries. And strawberries, $600 million worth of strawberries are grown in this county. They would have those same reactions. They had no idea.
Yeah.
They didn't know the crops that were growing in their backyard. They didn't know that Ventura County was ranked 10th in agricultural production. We would say, how many counties are in the United States? And there's over 3,000. There's about 3,044 counties. And when we would say that Ventura County was ranked 10th, again, their jaws would drop. So I realized as we were teaching the children about agriculture that their parents also had little to no knowledge. So that was like kind of always in the back of my brain, that fact. And then one day, as I go to many conferences and symposiums and meetings about agriculture because I can't get enough information, the president of the Ventura County Farm Bureau was talking at a local farm about local agriculture. And he mentioned, if you want to help agriculture in this county, you've got to reach the general public. So I put that statement and all the knowledge that I gained from the field trips, and I said, what if we had if we approached all these farms in the county and said, why don't you hold an open house day and invite the general public and give tours and answer all their questions, and they get the information about agriculture directly from the farmer. So I asked 10 farmers in this county, some conventional, some organic, some big, some small, some orchard, some row crop, a good mix.
Right.
And all 10 of them said
yes. Oh, nice.
And so our first farm day was in 2013, and at the end of the day, the farms that participated called me and they said, Mary, people pulled into our parking lots at 10 a.m. and we were busy all day. And I was like, because when you do an event like this for the first time, you're like, you have your fingers crossed. And
yeah, absolutely.
And it worked, and they were thrilled with the questions. They were thrilled with the community engagement. And so we're going into our 4th year this year.
I just have to say this. I'm a what if kind of guy. In fact, Kari Spencer is my business partner in one project, and Janice works with me, and James works with me, and Taylor. These are my close friends and people that I work with, and they always know that when I say, "Oh my gosh, what if?" that there's something coming out that we're going to have to go do. And one of the things that I really want to acknowledge you for is you do it. So when a moment ago when you said,
thank you,
you said you said what if, and then I started laughing because that's what I do too. And this stuff happens in the world because people are brave enough, are happy enough, are I don't know enough to just say what if, and then they go out and do it. So I really, really want to acknowledge you for taking on these projects and then actually go doing them. That's epic.
Thank you for saying that, because there's something that drives me, and quite frankly, I'm really not sure what it is. But I am very action oriented. Maybe I did get that from my father, who woke up at 3:30 in the morning to go milk cows.
Nice.
And I have this little sign that I just purchased. I saw it at a store, and it has one word on it, and it says try. It's this wooden sign. And it says try, period, with the end. And that's all you can do is just try. I would go to these meetings in this county, these big committee meetings, agricultural meetings, and they were always talking about what they want to do or what they're going to do. Yeah. And then we'd come back a month later and nobody had done any and nothing.
Yep.
And I would sit there and get so I wouldn't get angry. I would get frustrated.
Yeah.
And while they were trying to figure out what they were going to do and when they were going to do it, I was just running with the ball all over the place, So I appreciate your saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. You bet. So I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. You shared something with me before we got started recording, and I'd like you to speak about it because it is, I think, the third epic thing that you've done. And you had a press day last month for your event. And Janice, who produces our podcast here, came out to it. And what I'd like you to share is why you did that, because that's another really important piece of this puzzle that we all need to learn. In fact, I said to myself, oh my gosh, I think I actually said to you, we're going to do that. So why did you do that?
Well, I think that, like I explained, the first time we organized Farm Day in 2013, it was really a wish and a prayer, and my fingers were crossed that it was going to work.
Yep.
So it was kind of like on the down low. Like, you know, when you succeed, you do want everybody to know about it, but when you fail, you kind of wanna, you don't want people to hear that you had this flop. It was successful, and the press got wind of it, and they called me, like the local newspaper, the VC Star called me. They interviewed me. Why did you do this? They had pictures, and so that the local newspaper covered the story, and then of course it reached a wider audience, and then I had media and print media, radio stations say, why didn't we hear about this? Why didn't you tell us about this? And I said, well, quite frankly, I will in the future, but then now we're going into our 4th annual, and I didn't want that same, those same comments to come up from the press of why didn't we know about this? Because when they hear about it, they understand the mission, they understand its importance, and it's something that they really want to get behind. So what I did this year is I was a little bit proactive in that we had what's called a FAM tour. It's FAM stands for familiarization, and we had a FAM tour for local media where we invited them to the county to give them a taste of Farm Day. And when I say taste, I mean
literally,
a little, yes, literally a taste. And we invited them to, we hired a charter bus, and we took them to Howling's Tomatoes, Gill's Onions, University of California, Hanson Agricultural Center, and Petty Ranch, and the Grass Family Farm. And we gave them a little snippet of what the general public will see on Farm Day. Yeah. And they had a farm-to-table lunch, and they had a blast. And they have already started to write about it, which is wonderful. So it worked.
Yeah. Fantastic. Cool. All right, so I'm going to shift a little bit on you here, and I'd like for you to talk about a time you failed, how you overcame that failure, and what you might have learned from it.
Let me think about this. You said earlier something, and I think that I have to remember that not everyone goes at the same speed that Mary goes.
I can completely get that with what you get done.
Thank you. Yeah. And I don't mean that to sound condescending in any way, because I don't mean it that way.
Yeah, no, not heard that way.
I just, sometimes I don't have a lot of patience, and I don't like that about myself. So I really want to learn to be more patient, because of my impatience, it's gotten me in trouble, and I'm really working on that.
Yeah. And you get a lot done, so yay.
Thank you. But sometimes it's backfired. Yes, I do get a lot done, but some people interpret things differently, and sometimes my impatience is backfired on me. So I'm learning to be more patient.
Yeah. I hear you. I'm also one that gets a lot done, and I've run over people in the past, not on purpose, but it just happens. So I hear you on that one. So what do you consider your biggest success?
I really think that when we receive thank you notes from these school children, and they write the most sincere, you do not, when you are a child and you write a thank you letter to someone that you've spent, 2, 3, 4 hours with, there's such sincerity that comes within that letter. And when they start listing out the things that they learned, or the little funny, bug that they found, or the piece of fruit that they picked with their own hand, and we're giving them, I don't know if you remember as a kid going on any field trips. I remember going to a maple tree, a maple sugar factory, and I'll never, and I'm giving kids not only an educational experience, but I'm giving them memories that will last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that is, for me, that's successful.
Sweet. What drives you?
What drives me? This is fun. I'm having a blast. I love what I do. I work with farmers. These people are the salt of the earth. They grow food for us to eat.
Uh-huh.
What is more important than food? What is more important than food? Can you think of anything?
Well, besides air and water, not much.
Someone asked me to write one word down, and he had asked different people to write different words, and people wrote love and peace and truth and all these wonderful words, and they're all the
Really
highest word. Yeah, very important. But I wrote food, and I was thinking to myself, you can't have truth without food. You can't have love without food or peace, because food is our sustenance.
Yeah.
And so.
Wow. So I'm all about education. I have to know, is there one or maybe two books that have been significantly influential for you in your life in this process?
Yes. I recently had the pleasure of going to Stone Barns Food and Agriculture Center. It's located in Chappaqua, Tarrytown area in Westchester County.
Uh-huh.
And when I knew that I was going there, so this Food and Agriculture Center there's also Blue Hill, which is a restaurant, and this is the most sustainable farm-to-table restaurant that you can find. I challenge anyone to find a more farm-to-table sustainable restaurant. They grow everything on the property that they use in the restaurant. There's no menu. You eat what they picked that day. You don't have a choice. You eat what they grow or what they raise. Uh-huh. And so before I went, I wanted to just learn more about it. So I purchased Dan Barber's book. Uh-huh. He's the executive chef at the restaurant, and the name of the book is The Third Plate. And he talks about agriculture, when America, back in the day when agriculture was just getting started here, and what farm practices they used to follow. Mm-hmm. And he talks about biodynamic and organic and, all the different varieties of grains. And it really opened my eyes to agriculture. SEAG, we say we open eyes to agriculture, but he opened my eyes to agriculture. And I learned so much about what our forefathers did before we wanted to cut corners and save money. And so I really highly recommend that book.
Yeah. Wow. So what one final piece of advice do you have for our listeners?
Pay attention. Pay attention to what you're eating. Mm-hmm. Ask questions. Be conscientious consumers. I've learned so much from the time I started this until today. Get to know local farmers. Ask them questions. Why they do what they do. Mm-hmm. Why they don't do, what they don't do. Yeah. Just pay attention and ask questions and educate yourself. There's nothing more frustrating than to have someone say, monocrops, they're terrible, they're the end of the world, and then they go buy a loaf of bread. Yeah. If they make these big statements because they think that they're supposed to make them, yet they're not following their own practices of what they believe they should. So that's my advice. Pay attention, educate yourself, and don't just talk the talk, walk the walk.
Walk the walk. Wow, that's powerful. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing your experience with us today, Mary. It has been a treat chatting with you.
Thank you so much. When I'm asked these types of questions, it only re-inspires me and reinvigorates me to keep doing what I'm doing. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. How can our listeners get a hold of you?
Our website is very easy, seag.org, seeag.org, and you can contact me through the website. And our other website is VenturaCountyFarmDay.com.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Fantastic. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast. Decades ago, I started growing food in my front and backyard, and I realized that my mission in life is to inspire and empower others to grow their own nutrient-dense, healthy organic food. Because of this, a lot of people have come to me with their gardening questions over the years, and that got me thinking, what if we put together a community that would help budding gardeners blossom? So I finally made the idea a reality with my Urban Farm U member program. Each month, your membership includes 3 live online events, a monthly class, a chit-chat with an expert, and a monthly coaching session, plus access to the experts on our member page and a significant discount on our signature courses. I'm deeply committed to transforming our global food system, and I do this by empowering you to grow your own food. The Urban Farm membership program is a simple way to get going. Please join me in transforming your food system today. To learn more, go to urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444. That's urbanfarmmembership.org or text membership to 33444.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.